taken off, and then that's it. We're going to be able to drop this whole thing right now. Transmission's out. That's the all-wheel drive transmission from the CRV. It's kind of dirty, but this is just to mock it up to make sure everything fits. So far, the H22 bracket does not fit, so obviously we kind of expected that. So I'm looking for a B series bracket. So the adapter lid is bolted on. This is just for mock-up purposes, and this is the spacer for the crankshaft. Basically goes the indentation right here, bolts onto the one down there on the sliding like that. It's gonna be a little snug, but there you go. H to K adapter, so I can run a K series manifold that folds down to clear the hood. But so far, we did a lot, so I can't be mad. Everything is pretty straight. As you can see right there, everything's pretty straight. Love the engine, love the transmission, and then start on cutting the rear. But this is the first step. These are the parts that we've got. This is the Euro R pulley, single, no power steering. These are the universal bushings purchased, just gotta cut them down to length. It's one little longer than we needed, so this would just make adjustments. We cut the plate and got it mounted, so now we have a good surface to weld on. When we get the whole transmission leveled, put this side back on, it's mounted on. Now we're just making the little brackets, so when we basically do the weld right here and here. There's the mount that we made. Everything's in place, it bolts up. That's the mount we're working on for the back. And that's the front. Transmission side we're gonna work on it tomorrow. More or less, the motor is level, flat, stable, whatever you want to call it. We made sure of that. And I did.
Make sure you get my
the other side. Hello everybody. So we're back. Give you a little update. We have the frame rail mounted for the rear. Just got to stitch, just have them stitch welded right now. We're gonna actually fully weld them in sometime during the week. I'm gonna be taking out the rear bumper today, so we can figure out how we're gonna run the exhaust. So right now, as you can see, everything is basically in place. So the back is done. Just gotta figure out the front. So more or less, this is how it looks. Still have the factory seat locations because we're gonna figure out a way how to make the custom seats fit here. So far the engine is in, mounts are made, everything is secured, and took the doors off. So this way we can start mounting everything. So the cradle is in, as you guys can see. We're working on placement of the diff right now. But we're just gonna figure out how we're gonna mount the differential, figure out the angle of the drive shaft, start making the mock axles up, get the correct orientation of how we want them to make sure they're not going to be hitting anything. So what I have done is I put a long extension bar into the drive shaft so I can get more or less an idea of what it's going to be like, since everything is in the resting position. So this is the lowest it should technically get, so we should have plenty of clearance. Out. We have these little rods, so at least this way we could adjust the differential in and out if I decide to upgrade. But for right now, everything's secured. Yeah, get the mock axles in just to get an idea of what the clearance would be, and so far everything is fine. Should not have any issues, but if we do, we already have a plan. Once the new axles come in, once we send these out to get made, we just had to get an idea of the dimension that we would need. So they're in. Everything is actually being supported by its own weight. Leave all the jack stands are out, and everything's looking good. So currently this is all we've done so far. We've started on the process of sheet metaling the whole bottom end. So we've completed the tunnel. I believe that's 16 gauge we're using for the center, and then we're going to use 20 gauge for the outside to basically cover inside the car from here over. So this way it's dual layer, because the part we cut out was dual layered, so we're just trying to replicate what the factory did. And then once that's done, we're just gonna, you know, trim it up a little bit and then start doing the floors. We're gonna probably join the floor to it, kind of like how we did back here. We're gonna start working on it again since all the Christmas hype is over. You know, actually start getting some free time. So as you can see, the tunnel is done by where the passenger feet would be. We raised it and did the dual layer like we stated we would do in the first update last time. We made the low bracket cable, so the cable just bolts in, goes straight through, and here's the floor section. So we just started on it. Okay, this is a look underneath the car in the daylight. So here's the finished product. The e-brake is in, ran it through, tighten it down on the bracket, had the two factory 12mm bolts in place, and this is the brass. I just have it adjustable, so we have two 10s on each side. I just lock it in, run the cable through, tighten it down with the Allen keys, and we now have e-brake. There's that little clevis right here. Pull back, the e-brake is engaged. So once everything's done, if I want to adjust it more, I can. So release it. Everything's spinning. So of course there's still a little bit of, just gotta adjust everything, make sure everything's fine when it's actually rolling. Out, came up pretty easy with a transfer case. It's just dirty. So with the mounts, everything made. So now it's time to just take it apart, clean it up, repaint the engine and transmission, make it clean, then redo the bay. Right here is the bracket that my friend made so we can mount the shifter into the transmission, into the tunnel, sorry, into the vehicle. We're using the CRV, so we had to make an adapter plate, which is what this is, bolted to the factory location, and it's curved to fit the contour of the tunnel. I guess you might. So we have some big updates. And just basically put all the suspension on the car so I can start reassembling the engine bay. Hopefully everything goes well, and if it does, I should be moving this car back to the shop to get the oil pan redone and just just to test it up, finish up all the little so the axle boot could spin. So this is what it looks like. See, the clearance is right there, just touching that little section, I guess where the clamp is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind off that portion. Okay, doesn't look too bad. So here's a little all-wheel drive footage. It's a little hand power because here's a quick glimpse of what it's going to look like. So everything is connected, it's on all fours.
I live inside my own world of make-believe.